Knock, knock.
Who's there?
It's me, Mary Shelley from Frankenstein. Oh, bro, are you ready to talk about The Bride?
I'd prefer not to.
Now, the only thing that's cringier than our opening bit here is the movie itself. Spoiler alert. Um, yeah, we're gonna talk about The Bride today, and I gotta make sure I don't call it Frankenstein.
Now I just wanted to say on that exact note, there are only two types of reviews for The Bride, and you may be able to guess which one ours is going on, but it's either the best masterpiece Slay Queen motif, or it is what a waste of my time. And I would say I'm somewhere in the middle, but yeah, I did text you right out of the theater like, this is a fun conversation to have, but I don't know if
Yeah.
I really dug the movie that much. A lot of pros, but a big Connor or two.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah, we'll
think
get into it.
I think on my spoiler-free thing, I put this as a 2, as my gut instinct because I'm like, this movie is bad. It's a bad movie. But there are so much that I like about it, and now I'm kind of stuck because I think like I want to give it a 2.5, but not because the movie itself is mid, but
Yeah.
because it's contrasted by so many good components and so many really bad components that it just sort of falls into this section there. But I will say it is a bad movie. I had a great time watching that though, and there was me, Adriana, Sam, and Abby, and we were having a riot with that. I had heard anecdotally beforehand, like I had heard people comparing it to Norbit, as far as Jessie Buckley's like, coming out for best actress here, and
Oh
this
my
movie's
God.
coming out just as the voting window closes to Sabotage. And I was like, wow, is it that bad? And then I saw other things that were like, this is the worst film I have seen in the last 10 years. I think it was a New York Post article came out that was like, this has been the worst thing I've had to do for my job. Watching this movie was the worst thing I've ever had to do for my job, which is, I
Oh
mean,
my
fair
God.
enough, a good cushy job, I guess, if this is the worst thing you've had to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
for
I
that.
feel like we've seen worse than this movie, to be fair. I don't want to be the pro Bride on this conversation, but I definitely don't think I came down as hard. I'm more like a 3, and again, like you, it's so elevated on some levels, but it's so bogged down by others. It's not
Mm-hmm.
mid, it's just the highest highs and the lowest lows level it out. It's not a boring movie, which is like a huge praise. But again, yeah, I don't know if it's just because it wasn't for me, which again is something I know you hate hearing, but I could not really latch
No.
into the characters much at all. And there's another movie that this is much more compared to, and I saw it with the same friend group that saw that other movie, and that was Joker 2: A Folie à Deux.
Yeah.
And yeah, you get that vibe so hard. I have so many like one-liners that I want to pump out, but one of them would be, without even giving away the ending of the movie, there's a huge moment, and I was like, man, the CEO of Hot Topic is loving this. This is the new Harley Quinn Halloween costume fit, but it's the bride. The whole movie I kept having that thought of like, white girls everywhere now have a new icon for Halloween. But yeah, on that note
I
too,
will say I don't think this movie will have the cultural relevancy to
as
actually
Harley Quinn.
become an icon for Halloween. And I was talking to Adriana as we were leaving because we saw 3 movies, or I saw 3 movies that day. And I said, if this movie had caught on, I feel like it would have set feminism back like approximately 10 to 15 years. I was like, this is, and again, to my credit, this isn't, if you're watching this and you're like, these 2 meathead guys. No. This is like objectively undermines its own messaging like so often. It's so like, I saw someone be like, oh, it's like the mile wide inch deep kind of thing, and it was like, it's a
Yeah.
bowl that's overflowing with too many themes and things like that. I'm like, no, it's more like a plate overflowing. Like a
A
bowl at
wet,
least
soggy
has a
steak.
level of depth
Yeah.
that this movie just did not possess at all, and had just like so much going on, like plates up in the air. It's a crime thriller. It's a feminist revenge, but not a feminist revenge. It's a crime romp, Thelma and Louise-esque. Like it's a lot. And it's
It's a lot.
Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein. And again, like, it's not a spoiler because it's the opening bit. So I had heard all these like terrible things. I heard some really great things too, but I heard a lot of these terrible things. And then when the movie, I swear to God, this is real. The movie opens with text that says Mary Shelley in 1818 or whatever it was wrote Frankenstein on a dare. And then it starts with Jessie Buckley in this like black and white, again, shot very well. That's one of the things I'll give this movie. And she goes, knock, knock, who's there? It's me, Mary Shelley. And I was like, oh, fuck me. I think that person saying this is the worst movie in 10 years could be onto something.
My friends and I looked at each other when this was happening,
no.
and we looked at each other like, like, you know,
Oh,
we were
yeah.
like, this might be a stinker.
Cackled like a
Yeah.
hyena at that, dude, when I was like, there's no way you hit me with a knock knock. It's me, Mary Shelley. And I was
Mary
like,
Shelley.
oh,
I know. After
shit.
last week, to be fair, I gotta say two things to cover our own biases. Last week we reviewed Pillion, the gay BDSM movie, where as two meatheads, we're pretty impressed by it. And secondly, in that last episode, we were like, we got to stop doing accent work on this podcast. And immediately, it's like, you know what, we can't not talk about old timey Mary Shelley. And I honestly, too, like to give away my own bias, this movie was much too close to home for me. I don't think I could relate with the main character being a manic, bipolar, alcoholic white girl with blonde hair shucking back oysters. That opening 5 minutes, I was looking at all my ex-relationships and I was like, oh, please don't resuscitate her. I can't spend the whole movie with her. And then on top of that, she's having these spells of switching into an old cockamamie British woman, you know, expositing how the audience needs to be feeling, and the dead are angry, these men. And I was like, oh no, this is my drunk ex-girlfriend who was a feminist who got wasted at every party event I was at. And there's many a party scene or many a scene where she just blows the roof off and has an outburst and is doing it in her bipolar Mary Shelley accent and her like kind of like New Jersey gangster like normal voice. So again, great performance, like, and well shot, very well shot, lots of creative choices. But I just think the character itself, for me as a person, I was just like, oh, this is the archetype I just like the most, is like not even just a manic pixie dream girl, but just like the most obnoxious, like random quirky outbursting British accent. I hate accents, so I don't know. But yeah, I agree with that. Like that opening really jarred me. But I would say there's a lot of pros, right? Every time I was like, okay, I'm actually really starting to enjoy this, there would be a big soliloquy almost, and then I'd be like, no thanks.
Yeah, this movie constantly gets in its own way.
Yeah.
And I felt like the pacing, I wasn't bored either, but the pacing was off, and I feel like it's constantly
Off,
it
yeah.
gives you this start and stop feeling, but not necessarily because of the pacing itself, but more you're like, that was good, okay, this is bad, that was good, this was bad. And I felt like just this constant whiplash between things like, yeah, I liked and I didn't like. And I would say on a net, I think it's like I've been hearing all weekend, like walkouts and all this shit. And I'm like, I kind of love that. And I want to be super clear. I think this movie was like really struggled as a cohesive movie. It was not good. I think the script is the weakest point of the movie. Maybe this like script based on the edit. I had heard there was different cuts of this movie that were shown earlier that were much stronger. So that could be partly what's going on here, whether studio involvement or whatever caused it to change from that. But it just is a mess. It has too much going on. But it was a damn fun little ride to experience with people, like just eye rolling together. Like the very last shot, I was like, oh, I love this. This is great. And then it is immediately undercut by a needle drop that we will mention in the spoiler side of this.
Yeah,
that
was
I
a good
started
one.
cackling at because I'm like, oh, I feel a little bit of emotion here. And then I went, ah. So then,
yeah.
so
a
then
little bit
it
Suicide
was,
Squad feeling in like very poppy, fun presentation. But again, when I'm already thinking of Harley Quinn for 80% of the runtime and the Joker, like we'll get into the spoiler half of the exact beat where I was like, I can't separate this from Joker imagery. But to keep in the spoiler free half and agree with you. I wanted to ask you, because you like me, I went pretty far out of my way to see this in IMAX on like the opening Thursday night before like the official Friday launch. Um, don't know if the IMAX was really IMAXing enough for me. I know you're a huge proponent of seeing everything in IMAX when possible, but I was seeing graphics showing the differences on aspects, and I was kind of like, I don't know if it really helped me. Like I appreciated and could praise a good chunk of the movie's creative choices, even though the other half the creative choices really impacted it negatively for me as a viewer. But the IMAX of it all, while we're in spoiler free, did you find it was worth the IMAX cost of admission, or do you think you could have seen this on a different normal big screen? You know what I mean? Like, is it worth the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
upcharge for IMAX?
My thing with IMAX is that I think it, regardless of what they do with the format, it's the most immersive experience you can get at the theater because the screen is so big. You can get close enough that you're surrounded by this, and I really, so that to me is the kind of like net reason to do IMAX. There's cases like Sinners that I can think of. Mission Impossible, right? When he cranks the thing, and as he's cranking the submarine door, the frame expands. Like I like when they play with the frame rate, or sorry, the frame size, but I don't like when they play with the frame rate. Avatar, James Cameron. But be
The
consistent, I
Hobbit.
guess.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate The Hobbit too.
Don't
But
get me
anyway,
started on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. But for this one, I find it less effective because again, to me, the whole thing, like if you're changing it for certain scenes and it doesn't feel, if it's happening kind of like spontaneously almost feeling, and I know it's not, like it's intentional. They've clearly laid out that it was intentional. But I'm thinking about the difference between that Sinners shot, for example, as the music starts and it slowly expands and fills, like that has an effect on the audience. And like, again, like I think of that scene, I still get chills and my spirit wants to levitate out of my body. But something like this, when it's just like kind of cutting between moments, you're more immersed when it's more full, and so I prefer that. If it doesn't have some sort of utility, then I become questioning kind of like, why is it not just in sort of this max format to just again help with that immersion? So I think I don't see IMAX movies as a gimmick. I don't see that as like the reason to go is for these sort of like gimmicky shots. I think to me it is just the ultimate way to experience any movie for that immersion. So for my money, like I didn't care, like it was at the Scotiabank, which is the better IMAX here in Montreal. And yeah, I like that. Like again, to me it's the way to do it. But again, if you really don't find that that kind of impacts your experience or whatever, like this is not the kind of movie, like it's easy to sell like those big action movies or something like that. It's like, oh, you must do this in IMAX for less, like, or more traditional sort of dramas or whatever else you want to say. Like, I think it's less of a sell, but to me, it's still like I would recommend going to see it in that format. Yes.
Yeah, I found because I was hesitant. Even with like Sinners last year, I was just the guy that was like, oh, the Black Panther guy has a phenomenal movie that must be seen in 70 millimeter IMAX, and I was like, I'm not sold. Then I saw it and it was blown away. Then I saw it again in regular format screening, and I was like, I'm missing 1/3 of the movie. This is ridiculous. But then when this one had a bunch of marketing pushes being like, you have to see this in IMAX, I even texted you, I was like, oh, I just changed my screening to like a theater further away from where I was going to go. And it's, yeah, like I'm making the effort to go. And then, even seeing the side by sides afterwards, I was like, yeah, like those scenes were good. And maybe I would have been more negative on the movie seeing it in a regular screen, but I almost feel like it was the inverse of Sinners, where I'm like, I could put the genie back in the bottle. I don't know if I needed IMAX to appreciate more. So I feel like if
Yeah.
you're on the fence about seeing this movie, still see it in the theater, see it with people, like then have a discussion,
Yes,
because I think
well, as many people
the
as you can get to
discussion,
go see the movie, go see it
yeah,
with, because it
the
really
discussion's
makes
worth
the
it.
experience. Yeah, if I
My
saw this by myself, I would been, it just wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah, and if you're like a big Frankenstein head, there's a lot of callbacks that went over my head. My friend Jack is into like a lot of the older Universal monster movies and stuff like that. He watches like a lot more deeper cut stuff, so he's like, oh, in like the original Bride of Frankenstein and Young Frankenstein, there's like a whole dance number or like song that they used in this. And again, try not to spoil anything, but I was like, oh, it's really good. I'm glad that you could appreciate it with all that like all those nods. He's like, yeah, I still didn't really like the movie, but I thought it was really cool they did it. And I was like, hey,
Neat
I'm
that
so
they
glad I
included
saw
it.
it. Yeah, so I'm glad I saw it with somebody that kind of knew it better. And I was almost hoping Adriana would be here for this because I'd be like, did you read anything? Like, because I'm sitting here as the non-reader here, being like, as a movie, and I was like, I really wish somebody who was passionate about Mary Shelley to give a stake on like, was that a good enough call to be like, yeah, it turns out Mary Shelley was a wicked feminist and she never wanted to write Frankenstein and only wanted to write this, but was bound by history and the context of the times of being a lady. So now, you know what I mean? I'm just
Yeah, I don't even
so
know if that's true or like again,
yeah,
I thought that whole Mary Shelley inclusion in this, by the way, I thought was
felt a little
terrible and
wonky. Yeah.
unnecessary. Like it added absolutely
I
nothing.
I felt like it took away
Aside
from the
for again an
character.
undercutting.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, and we'll get into the
Yeah.
spoiler bit because I don't want to talk, but I just want to close on that IMAX thing one last time. I think IMAX needs to be a little careful about overselling it. To me, the thing about IMAX is it is the most immersive way to watch a movie. But if you sell too much the gimmick, and I don't mean that in like a bad way, but if you're trying to be like, the frame changes again, there's movies where you do that and it works. It's like making a movie specifically playing with that for different
Thematic
reasons.
aspect ratio changing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fine, but if you're trying to sell the movie like this, it's like, to me, it's the overall message needs to be about selling the most immersive movie watching experience possible. I think that's a safer bet, and that's why still I think this is the best way to do it. But yeah, it doesn't have any, like, it wasn't to any effect other than, once again, a bigger screen with a fuller frame that made me feel more immersed and kind of locked me in to this movie as much as I could get locked into this movie.
Yeah.
So
I would say before we get into like the deep talk on spoilers and get into beat by beat of the movie, we assume when we have these conversations too that this is for the people that have seen it, and this is like the discussion when you get out of the movie theater. That's why we don't necessarily spend 15 minutes trying to summarize the plot and do like an ending explain type video. But I would say, like, to give away the movie without spoiling anything, vibes wise, I kept getting the feeling of like a Beetlejuice in a way, where it was like macabre and romantic to like the alternate girlies out there. There's a lot of shots in this movie that I thought will turn into white girl flash tattoos, of the bride and Frankenstein running away in the streetlights together. I was like, that will be a flash tattoo for like some sort of Valentine's or Halloween, I bet, for some people. I definitely could see a lot of people like really gravitating and leaning into these characters. Again, like I joked about, the CEO of Hot Topic was probably the most impressed by this movie, being like, we're going to sell a lot of costumes. Um, but yeah, I had that really weird vibe because yeah, there's some scenes and dance numbers where it's like, look at this creepy thing happening and this surreal world and presentation. And again, with the IMAX of it all, the most IMAXing that was happening would be to establish like a period accurate old timey street. And I thought that was nice and immersive, or a dance number out of left field. And again, it's nice, but again, when you talk about it being more gimmicky, where if you sell every movie as you got to see this in IMAX, but not every movie is a Sinners or a One Battle After Another. Two movies I saw in 70 mil IMAX, and it's like I could never go back. Especially with One Battle, I say, like, I may not have noticed it until that road scene near the climax, where that added so much palpable weight and suspense, seeing the rolling hills from that point of view. So yeah, it's a fun movie to discuss, and it was a fun watch. But yeah, I'd be damned to say that I was really blown away. And I think creatively, which I think we'll get into in spoilers here now, so warning on that. I liked a lot of the choices. Now that we're in spoilers, I'd say my favorite little surprises was seeing that Jake Gyllenhaal wasn't just a cameo. He was like an actual character in this movie. I think I got more excited for him than when Christian Bale shows up the first time as like Frankenstein, almost the main dude, because it's all about the bride story, and he's kind of the catalyst for it. So yeah, now that we're in spoilers, is there anything big you want to really sink your teeth into? Because I feel like there's a lot to cover here.
Well, so the comparisons to the Joker, I was kind of like, okay, are these just surface level, like, because it's vibes, aesthetic, look, something like that? And
Musical
as it
numbers
was,
that bother you?
yeah, as it was going, I was like, oh, okay, so the musicality of the character, like, I could see similar to even the first Joker, because I really do think it's actually, it pulls both from both movies, I feel like.
Yeah.
Um,
The loner
and
archetype who doesn't fit
yeah,
in, who's
and then the
desperately trying to
dance
relate.
like movement and music
Yeah.
and movies. I did love, like, I will say, the whole fact that this is basically like they're obsessed with movies and they travel, like this
Yeah.
spree is all built on movies. Like, I loved that. I thought that was super funny.
Yeah. When
And like,
the
again, spoke to me. He's like, I'm having a panic attack. I
I gotta go to
straight
the
up,
movies.
this is a true story. I think it was like
Yeah.
2 weeks ago where I was like, I don't think I have a movie to see this like Friday, because normally I go every Friday, at least 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 movies. And then there was like a week where I didn't have anything, and I was like tweaking out a little bit. I was like, maybe I should just go rewatch Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie again, because like I feel like, what am I gonna do if I don't go on Friday? So that was
Yeah,
like 2 weeks ago or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I can really relate to that. So I thought that was really funny. But the Joker thing, that this is a great example of why this movie was really bad. So the incident you talked about where Jake Gyllenhaal's character like appears as a character, not just the actor in the movies. They do their whole little dance number and whatever. She has her monologue, which again, that whole bit to me, this whole crime element could have been completely yanked out of this
the
movie.
detective storyline is by far
I
the
was
most cut outable thing in the whole movie, I felt.
I was so confused at the beginning. I'm like, who are these people? What is going on? She's yelling at a mob boss. Okay, I get that. That's not good and whatever. And like, that thread was so weak, but it was also the catalyzing, like, plot moving aspect of the movie. And I thought that was just eye roll and annoying. But all that to say is she has this big outburst and monologue and going on, pointing a gun at people. And then, like an idiot in the most sloppy way forward, this cop who is sneaks around and then goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like, yells at her. So then she shoots him. Christian Bale pulls the fucking chandelier down and they run off.
Oh
And
my God.
this
And that
is the
chandelier pull.
inciting incident. Not even that. This is the inciting incident that gives us the Joker 1 vibe energy of like an inciting in riots across the, like, the states. And they show us all these newspaper headlines of these, like, this sort of like feminist upheaval where it's like, when you are outsmarted by the Joker movie, that's a problem, because him inciting a violent uprising, given the content of his speech and the fact he shot and killed somebody on TV in an era where there's 3 TV channels or whatever. Okay, obviously a lot of people would have seen that and known about that. This was like not filmed. It was like in a ballroom sort of thing that like rich people and cops saw. Like, it just was so stupid and eye-rolly how that immediately, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even, it's like she didn't even kill a rich person or whatever. It was just like a cop randomly. Like, it was all that, just to me is emblematic of all the slop. Yeah, exactly. All the slop
I have a conscience
of this
still.
movie of like, it just like, like a lot of things didn't make sense. And this is not me jumping to the very end, but the last like 15 minutes was genuinely the worst part of the movie. Like, basically from
like
Niagara Falls on.
Yeah.
But the dialogue, things they did in there. You talked about that detective. Well, where's the detective in the room? I'm the detective in the room. I was like, are you fucking kidding? This is Avengers Assemble. All the chicks show up, energy level of shitty.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm like, am I genuinely supposed to be like, get him? Or like, what is going on? Because again, and this wasn't just like, every one of us, Adriana, Abby, Sam, all of us were like, what the fuck? Like, it had all the subtlety of a mallet over the head. It was just like all of these things. So I feel like I've ranted enough on the negatives here. Hand it off to you, because again, this did inspire feelings. And I want to say, we didn't say this in the spoiler-free side, I want to give this movie a lot of credit because it swings. And we talk about being tired of the same old shit. This movie packs a lot of the same old shit into it, but it's without a doubt a swing. And I respect the shit out of that. But just because you do go for it doesn't mean you nail it. And this movie went for it and did not nail it. And yeah, those were just some of my kind of logic problems, and just like it just really didn't work for me on a story level at
No,
all.
for sure. I think creatively, like again, the swing was exactly what you said. Like, there's a lot of moments where it could have been worse. Like near the ending when they're having that heart to heart, the drive-in, and we see
Yeah.
their love story taking over the screen to elevate that scene from just being a conversation between two people in a car and at night, being kind of more magical and whimsical and almost corny. Like, it does embrace some element of camp a lot, which
Mm-hmm.
was a pro. I was like, oh, they're
Yeah.
going campy here. I like that. Compared to the Joker, Folie à Deux, it was much more campier than the first movie, which felt pretty like grounded and
Mm-hmm.
tonally consistent. But on the Joker note too, there was a moment in the Joker movie, Joker 2, when near the end, Joaquin Phoenix thinks like he's hallucinating, and she starts singing, and he's like, "Please, God, stop singing!" And the whole audience howled laughing because we all felt like, "Please stop singing! Like, finish the story. We're so sick of these bad numbers." Where in this movie, I think the musical numbers were far better. Like, it's not as big a flop as a musical goes, but like. I did find it really funny because there's a moment in this where somebody says something very similar of like, "Oh, stop dancing," or "Oh, please, not another one." Like, and I was like, "Oh, hey, this is doing the same thing." Especially at the end when we talk about that last 15 minutes being kind of like the schlockiest in a bad way. The
Mm.
charm of the camp was lost for me, especially. There's the moment where they're like expositing like feelings, and it's like climax of the movie, and the detective's outside the room with a gun. She looks bored, like she's waiting for her to finish stop talking, just like waiting. I mean, like,
Well, like
not,
that's also a logic
yeah,
bit where there's two back-to-back scenes, that drive-in scene and then the lab scene, where both times the hitman guy, whose only job is to kill her for whatever, like detective listening in makes sense to me. The
yeah,
hitman listening in does not make sense, but they both sit there, do nothing. Cops show up and shoot them, and then we go to the next scene where they both fucking sit there and are listening, and then
yeah,
eventually the hitman guy shoots. But it's like, what the fuck? And again, they pull up to the house and like
yeah.
left
They
the
leave the
door
car
open.
and the
So,
door
well,
wide
but the car,
open,
but like the door to the house, they put the body in. You think the
wide open.
first thing
Yeah,
you do is shut the
lock the
fucking door,
door.
but then when the
Even the door to the
detective
lab,
chick,
lock the door to the lab when they're
the
committing acts of
detective
against
chick
humanity.
the detective chick walks up like to or drives by the house and sees the car. She's like, "Fuck, is that the car?" And then she goes, the door to the house is wide open." So she just sneak. And literally, I
And then
did
the
like,
hitman's like, the door's wide open and follows her in, and everybody leaves the lab door unlocked while they're talking. Like, the
oh,
scientist is expositing too that she committed this heinous scientific crime and basically
for
mercy
no
killed her husband
reason. By the
for
way,
no
no
reason.
reason for this
Yeah,
late stage. Again, back to that 10 minutes being the worst of the movie.
yeah.
Now we just need this backstory for the doctor for no fucking reason at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. But yeah, it's funny because I kept feeling like, again, the creative swings and like all that being really top notch. Even if I didn't like the characters or some of the beats in the movie between them, like, I think filmmaking wise, this was a better made film than most movies.
Mm.
So kudos on that again, like what we were talking about. But yeah, that chandelier pull sent me through the roof. Like, it felt so bad to me because the shot is close up on Frankenstein going, "Ah," and he lunges like I could be mixing up left and right here for the podcast aspect here. He lunges right and then he enters left. That is fundamentally bad, like, screen
101
direction.
stuff.
And so he lunges right out of frame, comes in screen left, and the chandelier that was, I don't know, 10 feet in the air in this ballroom is tall enough for maybe a 7 foot tall plausible person to reach and pull down. uh and yeah, and like, it's funny, I screen recorded the trailer and that one section specifically so I could talk about this. It is so jarring, and it's like a money shot in the trailer of like crazy action and stuff, and I was like, it's right there. That's my bit, because in the time of watching it, I didn't know that was in the trailer, and I was like, that was really bad to me. I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like the screen direction was wrong. The chandelier height wasn't that low to the ground. Like, I'm like, what
Yeah.
was bothering me there? And I was like, oh, okay. So, and again, but similarly, that beat has to happen because it's a little contrived, like what you're talking about, where they just hit that moment for a big, standoff where nobody shoots her. And I really
For
felt
no
like
reason, again,
that
no
somebody
reason.
could have like when the guy sneaks up with a shotgun and they show him sneaking up, he's like Elmer Fudd, like tiptoeing like Wascally Wabbit kind of
Yeah.
way, gets up and goes, hey, and then she's like, and blows him
Yeah.
away. And you're just like,
No
that was
one
your
shoots
time.
still.
That was your time to like point blank end the hostage situation. Like if
Yeah.
your version of Jake Gyllenhaal in the 1950s or 30s, whatever, is that
No,
held
that's
at
Pedro
gunpoint.
Pascal, dude. Jake Gyllenhaal plays Pedro Pascal because apparently he's the only guy in every fucking movie in this
exactly.
universe is Pedro Pascal. So I couldn't shake that bit either. I thought of that. I was like, holy fuck, what is this guy? Pedro Pascal, every fucking place in the country is just playing different versions of his
I would
movies.
I love for the bride to have taken place in contemporary 2025, and it's like there's like, where is he? Oh, he's in Indiana. Are they playing Eddington? No, it's Fantastic Four, and they're like, perfect. We got to go stake out the
we
theater.
gotta go get.
But yeah. So, anyways, yeah. I just I want to get to like kind of narratively. Like again, I was saying this. I forgot the mobsters because at least those scenes added more threat. But I felt like the police. Like the detectives, at least their story was the worst and cringiest. I believed everybody in this movie to be period, except for I call him the white knight performative male detective. You know, his whole arc is being like, yeah, what if women were inspired to go to the moon instead of be a gangster? And then the cop's like, what if they're inspired to be a detective? And he's just like, yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, man. It's like idiot man opens mouth and talks like he's from 2026. Took me right out of it every time he had like any big moment. And he finally starts acting with a capital A when he has that interaction with the bride being like, I should have done more. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is a scene that fits in the movie a little bit, but I would have cut so much of their earlier screen time. Their plot line in my head, when you did the snapping earlier, that was my big feedback was if I saw this movie on a Tuesday, the crowd that goes for the cheap Cineplex Tuesday nights would have been the type of crowd to go, yes, and snap their fingers.
Detective.
Yeah, she gets it done. And like you said, the Avengers Assemble, The Boys has a great like parody on that Avengers one shot of all the women lining up in Endgame, where it's all the female superheroes and they're like, you know, the scummy producer, J.J. Abrams looking guy goes, girls get it done. Yes, this is what we want to give like women to come see our movies. And then in, you know, The Boys, it ultimately ends up being the women just dogpiling and whomping this girl with their fists. It's not like a big superhero shot. It's like a fight in the mud. So it's like The Boys parodied that better 5 years ago. Yeah. So to see this kind of trope played up so hard here, it was tough. But
well,
yeah,
on the feminism part of it too, I think like this is the problem for me about like you take low-hanging fruit that's there and you really have like again you don't have to go in depth to make this believable, but when you have incidents that just cause me to like roll my eyes at the like unbelievability of like we talked about this one movie last year at Fantasia. I don't even remember what it was called, but I hated it. It was like one of the first movies where I've ever been like I wanted to walk out, and it's like, oh, there's this gang of like rapey dudes that are just that's all they do. They just drive around going from party to party trying to rape, and it's like, okay, like you could have given like some level of believability, and then in this one, like they get pulled over by the cop. And there was the scene, to be clear, there was the scene at the bar or the club thing they went to where that was effective. It really worked. Yeah. It really worked. And like made sense.
Because it's her learning that she's vulnerable. She's still just a woman being too free-spirited, and she's in a man's world.
Had no problem with that. That was a good moment. Then we get into this other bits again later in the movie, this back end where everything just is like, I feel like predominantly worse, and they get pulled over, and you like could be for a number of reasons. They're very notorious and on the run.
Stolen car.
But then he just, doesn't have a light. So then like while she pulls her over, she's driving, he's in the passenger seat. This cop has a buddy, like another cop in his passenger seat, and just starts like trying to commit a rape on the car. And I was like, what?
While monologuing a poem that is like tongue in cheek, and I was like, twirl your mustache
again,
harder.
Like, did you? Like it was just so stupid. And I feel like too,
also Frankenstein, like they show him to be a much more competent character throughout the movie, and he really takes his sweet time to act there. And
he does.
To stuff falling apart, and it's like, brother, you like Frankenstein from earlier in the movie would have had that guy curb stomped 30 seconds quicker, and you like, but it's like, no, it just had to live in this world longer. And I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't care for Frank after that point, because I'm like, you suck, dude. Like you're not
Well, and
protecting
let
your
her get
lady. You're
shot
not.
by the other guy. Like, he took forever to take out the
Yeah,
other
he
cop
just
that
hid in the blanket.
the movie made a point of showing us that he looked like 7 times to know that that other cop was there. So like
Yeah,
it was just, again, more issues with the
sloppier,
movie.
much sloppier than the
And
first half.
it's super annoying when you take such like obvious like like a point that should be easy to convey the like like the like it should be no problem to make that a sympathetic like thing for our character. And when you make it like when you handle it so egregiously bad that it becomes more of an annoyance as a viewer, because you're like like I watched this movie Pleasure, which was a wild movie. Definitely don't ever watch that with your parents. But this is a movie that like really like it took themes that to me were like almost like overly obvious, like even more on the nose. And I don't want to get into that movie now, but like, and it handled it so well that I was like like wincing, like I was it's so effective. And it's just really annoying when you think you can just make a meaningful contribution by just like tossing up the most like artificial, unbelievable scenario up that just feels really inorganic and kind of lazy. And again, there's so many moments of the movie related to that that you're just like, okay, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. Like this, there is bad writing going on here. There is bad like logic things going on here that just yeah, it just caused me to really eye roll quite a lot in the back end of this movie. And again, like yeah, all the plots, like the heavy-handedness, like you don't have to try really hard to have this sort of like female empowerment revenge, like not even thriller, but like a ride here. And it just feels like it juggles so much and tries to stuff so much into it that it just didn't work. And I guess my last thing that I wanted to get out for this one was on the performances. I said that Norbit bit at the start. Fucking Jessie Buckley, and this could be me because I'm inclined to commitment performances. I am inclined when people go all the fuck in. I'm a Nick Cage guy. When you go all the way, baby, I will try and meet you there. And fuck, did she go all the way? Like she was giving it, and I thought it was great. I thought the performance was great. I thought the character often was really bad. And this is what I mean about that Mary Shelley possession that I alluded to earlier, where basically like the point is that, or how it manifests is that, did you know Mary Shelley had a good vocabulary? Because she would just say, like, she would hear someone say bitch, and then Jessie Buckley would like instantly switch accents. Like, again, technically this was a great performance, and then it would
Yeah.
just be like glitch, Mitch, bitch, and just like yell fucking words that rhymed. And I'm
Kill
like,
the crowbar. She's a witch. Ah, ha, ha, ha. And you're just
I
like,
was like, it was so, again, the
yeah.
performance was phenomenal, but it was so stupid and useless and annoying. And again, like, sort of to me was like minimizing, like, okay, like
Yeah.
her shtick is she just basically rhymes off other words,
Yeah.
or occasionally takes control to yell about this mobster guy. Like, why the fuck does Mary Shelley care about the mobster
Yeah.
guy? Why is she in the movie in the first place? Like, also
Well,
could have just been totally cut.
Well, that's the
But
thing is like
great performances. That's my
I,
bit.
yeah, the character of Ida really didn't get as much agency because she's taken over by Mary Shelley. And when they try to make it seem like she had this arc of getting her truth spoken, it's pretty hard to do that when you're getting manically possessed by Mary Shelley to have quips. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
Ida was the girl the whole time, and maybe she's had to learn who she was before and what she stood for. Like, I think you could have the same movie without the Mary Shelley thing. Maybe open it with that, like to be edgy, and like that would have been a drop in the bucket compared
Don't
to.
open it the exact way you did, though.
Yeah.
The knock knock, it's me, Mary Shelley.
Mary Shelley, yeah.
Probably could have handled that a little more cleverly.
Yeah, but I mean, from like a character standpoint, I really feel like I don't really care about Ida. Like the Bride is an amalgamation of Ida and Mary Shelley, really, and it just felt kind of lazy the way it finally gets to the point where she's like, I'm the bride. I belong to no man. And I'm like, what a confusing yes to that proposal, I think. But, short
Yeah.
lived. So, yeah.
Well,
And,
they exposit that whole story through the cop, right? The guy cop.
yeah,
Like, you don't
yeah.
know anything about what
And
the
again,
fuck
he's
is
the worst
going
part, in my
on.
opinion. So that was
Right.
hard
Like,
to
you don't know
care,
anything about her involvement in this crime. She clearly is mouthing off about something, knows something. And then, like, that just goes on for most of the movie before the cop exposits the entire frigging story for us to actually be like, oh, okay. So to the point again where I'm just like, why the hell is this in this movie? It is like just like a pressure cooker to add the hitman guy into the final act, basically, which was completely unnecessary because the cops show up to just blow her away anyway, too. So what the fuck? Like, it was all just really shittily dumb. And to cap all of that off, they do the final shot where they bring them back to life. She, like, in the most obvious, like, stupidest thing, like, we're gonna let her get dressed and we're all gonna step outside of this giant fucking like, it was
yeah.
so
Wink,
stupid.
wink. Take your
And
time,
then
detective.
they have what I was like, oh my god, this is actually a great shot as their two bodies are stacked up. It zoom, like, we
Romeo and
pan in on the
Juliet. Yeah.
hand, and like we see the light and their hands come together to hold hands. And then we did the mash, the
Yeah.
monster mash. And I was like, we're fucking close with the
And that's when
monster
it
mash.
cuts away to the what I call the hot topic ending, where all like the
Yeah.
5 minutes of screen time where the uprising of feminists take over the bar. And I was so mad about this. I didn't even clock the meaning of any of this. So at the end, I was like, yeah, I really thought like the white knight cop who gave up his job and finally saw the errors of his ways was going to get some sort of comeuppance, because he's like, oh yeah, I did like coerce a witness and then sleep with her and then ruin the trial. Oh yeah, I did shunt my, like he's admitting all his sins. So at the ending, when he shows up, he just kind of like smirks and walks away. I was like, something should have happened to that guy. Then my friend goes, no, don't you get it? The rise up Harley Quinn-esque bride women killed the mob boss and cut out his tongue. I'm like, dude, I was just so confused and kind of bummed out at the ending that I stopped paying attention to the literal IMAX mob boss kill, because I was just like, what happened with that guy? Why is he even being shown at the end? Like, his storyline was so relevant, and like, oh no, it's to show that he led the women to cut out the guy's tongue. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess he's paid his penance or whatever. But I was like, I don't know, man. That whole character, again, the actor I think did some good acting in it, but he talked so 2025 Caucasian man, and comparatively to all these New York gangsters or like old Frankenstein or even the doctor, I felt like, my friend said she was underwhelming, like, but I thought she was fine. But again, when you get that scene at the end where she's like, I actually
Yeah.
killed and revitalized my husband, but he was a shell of himself, so I had to put him down. I was like, wow, a little late to tell us the story. Why didn't she tell Frankenstein that and try to sway him at the
Yeah.
start? Like, that would have been way
Like,
more thematically appropriate to try to dissuade somebody from committing this heinous
why
sin.
is she so against it? Or whatever. You had like all these opportunities to make that feel much more organic, but let's shove that into the final like 5 minutes of the movie for no fucking reason.
I did really like, again, like we just to kind of conclude, I did really like the elements where Frankenstein is like such a lone shut and he hasn't ever shaken a person's hand in 100 years of existence. I like that he doesn't really heal. He's just kind of a corpse and he stinks. Really sold well by the only character to point it out, which was Jake Gyllenhaal, to be like, it reeks right now. Holy cow. And it's like, yeah, I bet that dance floor reeked. What I would say, to kind of like pro and con it, I did, again, the movie thing, the isolated loner shut-in, sees himself as the main character in movies. That's relatable.
Yeah.
I found Frankenstein to be a relatable character. But again, his agency was so undercut for some of the, like, again, the feminist tones where he decides when he wants to be a grumpy, shitty boyfriend that brings up her exes and gets jealous at the last minute. I was really stoked when the IMAX format changed for Frankenstein to get a blowjob. I was like, hell yeah. And then he shuts it down and I was like, oh, and then there's some other shagging in the movie. So thankfully the IMAX paid off for that, I guess, in the montages. But that scene, I thought was going to be way more pivotal and graphic. And like, not that it needs to be that, but I was like, finally, hundreds of years of adaptations of Frankenstein to screen, movies, TVs, books, and we finally see Frankenstein get a blowjob. on
Yeah.
screen in IMAX, and it didn't really come to fruition. So I don't know. It was weird. The relationship drama I felt was kind of subpar, and like when it was strong and going somewhere, and Frankenstein was kind of like lying about how they met, like fantasizing about it, like because he lives in the movies, he's been such a shut-in, he kind of is a bit of a compulsive liar trying to keep his ego intact. I thought that was like it worked enough, but I really felt like he could have been more like real with her after they established how real their love was, and just been like, I didn't know you before. Like when I brought you to life, that's when I fell in love with you. He could have been way more a buck with her, but they had to kind of like turn it so she would doubt him in the last 15-minute rebound of like, I hate you, I don't know you, I don't know myself. And then she, again, back to back scenes of explaining how she feels. It just really dragged. And lastly, on my Frankenstein notes, Christian Bale did a really good job.
Yeah.
But the one scene where, again, as soon as I stopped trying to compare it to Fall You Do, the Joker 2 movie, it was followed up in that montage where he gets the chest tattoo of her like name. It was like Pretty
Yeah.
Penny or Perline or
His
whatever.
fake Penelope.
Penelope, yeah. So he gets the tattoo in the tattoo shop, and because he's so mangled, I kept thinking of Jared Leto's Joker, which is a worse Joker to now equivalent it with. And yeah, like I know I recently saw a video talking about like how Joker has inspired so many cringe loners in the world to like really gravitate towards the character, and I was like, you know, not as a knock to anybody who enjoyed this movie, but I could see the people that really love this. It's because it dwells in that archetype. But yeah, the bride being a great performance, but a tough character to really enjoy on screen is such a twist, because I thought so much of this movie creatively that every time there was a scene where I would roll my eyes being like, okay, yeah, again, Mitch ditch, bitch. You know, I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, it'd be nice if Ida could maybe flesh out her feelings, or this phenomenal actress could convey how she's feeling with, you know, say less queen, not slay queen, but say less queen. Like I really think they could have had some
Right.
more restraint in these moments, because yeah, I was, like I said,
Yeah.
a worse screening. Like a Thursday night is the people that really want to see the movie. But a Tuesday night is like, I don't want to box office hype weekends, more money. I'll go on Tuesday, and that's when you get like the scummier youth. That's when you get the people that are just trying to kill a Tuesday. I used to go on Tuesdays all the time, and I stopped. But that's partially why we've run out of some end bits, because it's like I've just had good screening experiences.
It's a good
You go
run.
on a Tuesday, yeah, it's been a great run, like great crowds. And yeah, you go on a Tuesday, I go almost to farm like the person looking up Uber Eats on their phone mid movie, you know. Or in my case, like I said, if I saw this on a Tuesday, I guarantee there would have been women doing the like clicking of the fingers, and yeah, definitely. I was almost expecting it in this one, because I forget, we've seen so many movies lately where there's always the one girl in the crowd that's like, yeah, it's like saying it when there is a Slay Queen moment. But this movie was a Slay Queen moment every other scene. And again, I think the female detective storyline was necessary to have the story not just be, again, a Suicide Squad montage of the bride,
Eh.
but then it certainly to me just felt like they were doing her to be an insert to fit more of these feminist messages that, like you said, subtlety of a mallet to the back of the head, or to
Yeah.
you know, a train track to the back of the head for that cop. It felt like a Final
Mhm.
Destination kill where someone just trips and breaks their neck. Like there's so many times where people would die from falling, you know, naturally. Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well,
Anyways,
even like
yeah.
how that her first kill like
She's like, he's
mirrors
okay.
what happened to her though, like, and well,
Yeah.
sort of
Oh
like
yeah.
to a less. But even
Yeah.
that, I was just like, okay, like I have
Credit to
a lot of
that.
snap necks going on right now.
Yeah.
Here, let's
Credit to
spice it up
that.
here.
That stun, that opening, when I was really cringed out by, like, again, a great performance, but just again the PTSD of a drunk girlfriend at a holiday party or whatever. I was like, ugh. And then the Mary Shelley thing, I was really like, oh man, this, like, again, I kept thinking like, maybe I'll have the same thought of like, this movie's not for me, but it's a good movie. And what was buying me in on the good movie aspects was that opening stunt when she dies, breaking her leg and hitting her neck. I was like, they really took the time to film a gruesome fall down the stairs moment, again, especially with the messaging of like crappy men in the, you know, 30s and 50s
Yeah.
treating their women. I was like, ooh, you know, when, you know, there used to be the joke of like, I fell down the stairs, when she's got like a shiner and she falls
Yeah.
down the stairs really hard. The commitment to filming that and like getting the first gut punch reaction to me was like, ooh, that was a brutal leg and head injury.
There
I
was
really
a lot of
appreciated.
digital shit they did with it, and this threaded my needle of like because it was stylistic, like they were doing
Hmm.
different things that like you couldn't practically just like film for that, and like it like even though how that opening shot as she falls and it sort of like pans up again to this Mary Shelley thing going on, which again its inclusion I still am baffled by. But I'm not really shook on Maggie Gyllenhaal's direction. Like, I think there were, like, again, this movie really was good to look at. The production design was solid. Even these sort of digital establishing shots of like old timey New York, like, felt enough that I wasn't like immediately like, ugh, digital New York of old time. Like, I'm like, oh, like it was neat and it really
Yeah, the
shows.
immersion
And
was good.
yeah, and I think it all like worked on those, and I think like as far as like I've been reading some like the reviews, like as much as I was saying that was getting dogged on at the beginning, there's a lot more positive stuff on Letterboxd, and I think part of that is only because no one is watching this movie. It made like nothing over opening weekend. In the IMAX screening we went to, there was maybe 8, 10 people in the whole theater, and we were four of them.
Yeah.
So there was only one person in front of us and then maybe a couple pairs of people behind us. Um, Nobody went to this movie. Yeah, a bunch of people I saw were walking out, but I understand, like, again, sort of the
You actually had
inclination.
walkouts at yours.
I didn't have any walkouts. I've seen a
Oh,
bunch of people talking about
because if
that there
one
was
of 10
walkouts.
people
There was
walked
nobody at
out,
mine to
that's
walk out
crazy.
of.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
a
we had
friend
probably
of mine that
20 of the
saw the
100
movie
people.
said he had a walkout with like the last 15 minutes. Someone's just like, I've had enough and walked out, which is funny as hell to me because that's again where that became like egregiously bad. But like for the people that like this, I'm like, it's okay to have sort of like a nuanced take, like one like where it's like there is a lot good and a lot bad about this movie. I think as a movie, as an experience like that, it is a bad movie. But there are things you can appreciate in a bad movie. And I think this is sort of the case where, like, it's almost sort of like undermining. Like, I understand the hunger for more fresh stuff, things that feel different. Again, like we talk about these swings, like, I am right there with you. I'm tired of the same old shit all the time. But this movie, like, it really is sort of like a hodgepodge of a lot of other shit. Like the closeness between this movie and the Joker movies and Poor Things is sort of alarming. Like it's not that original. It
Oh,
is.
and Frankenstein from Guillermo del Toro from not even 6 months ago. Like,
Yeah,
it's been a bit of
yeah.
a oversaturated market
But
for
even that's like, okay,
that.
but you're dealing with like a similar IP. Like that's even fine. But like narratively speaking, this is just really pulling a lot of beats from Poor Things. It's the same arc almost, except it's just like a brain swap, but like going through the same evolution. And it's way worse than that in pretty much every regard. And then on this flip side of Joker, where like Joker derivative is obviously the first one of Martin Scorsese and King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, and then the second one just a complete, like, I was really excited to be on board for that movie and it was not good. And so it's like, I don't know, like I just feel like there's not a whole lot, like narratively to me, this is where this movie just falls apart. It just is such a mess. And whether they needed to cut more stuff out, whether there's a version of this movie that's significantly better, maybe. But there was just like it just felt like I can't believe they this was a $90 million budget. I won't say that I don't know where the money went because again, costumes, makeup, set, like all of those things,
Yeah, effects and the
production
actors
wise,
alone are
yeah,
probably worth
were
that. Yeah.
really solid. That's not a huge, budget by modern standards anymore. And so it's just kind of baffling to me that like I really wish, and I'm sure it'll come out like who butchered this and where did this go, because again I've seen a lot of people saying in earlier screenings of this movie it was way more cohesive and a much better movie. So I don't know who's at fault there. And this, but like this was the same Warner Brothers team, right? That gave us a One Battle After Another, Sinners, Took a Shot
I
with
was
Weapons,
yeah, I
like
was gonna say this is the this movie box office wise ends a 9 movie streak of hits for Warner Brothers.
yeah,
Again, like what you're saying, from Sinners to Superman to F1, just Warner Brothers was on a huge roll of the last tail end of last year and so forth. And then this is the first like big flop they've had in a
yeah,
while. Almost echoing again like a Black Adam or something like a superhero thing.
yeah.
And I feel like, like we couldn't take almost like Joker 2, I think was another flop close enough
Mm,
to these timelines. But yeah, I think it's kind of funny when it has that very poppy, superhero-esque vibe of these people who are outcast misfits that are special. It does
mm.
tread the water of being a little close to something like a superhero movie. I wouldn't dare do the disservice of saying they're trying to do like the Frankenstein Avengers and say like this is, the Dark Universe 2.0 where we have these crazy musical numbers and stuff. But yeah, it does end a big good run of movies. And again, it sucks because yeah, it's a good movie with a very unenjoyable story or characters. I don't know how to put it because yeah, you said it probably better than I did there. It's a bad movie with a lot of good things in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just $90 million budget and it's flopping. It's being beat by, was it Hoppers, the animated movie, which apparently is phenomenal. So
Yeah, well,
uh
and hopefully is a big win for an original Pixar movie because they
yeah, it's
have
been a
been
while.
struggling too. But yeah, no, I think like to be clear too on the Warner Brothers thing, but this is like that's the model I like. I don't want the takeaway from this to be like not don't take those risks, right? Because that was obviously an anomaly run where it really paid off for them. But like this is sort of the risk, right? There's a version of Sinners, out like the chance that that was the mess, and that this one was the great cohesive
Yeah.
kind of movie. Like that's you don't know, you really don't know. Like no one knows for sure, or it would be easy and it would be done all the time. So like I respect the shit out of Warner Brothers for giving it that run. Netflix actually was a co-producer or like whatever financier on this, and they I think backed out. I think I read that somewhere. So it's like, so Warner Brothers really shouldered the brunt of this, and there's a whole acquisition and all this going on, so we won't dive into that. But I really like it was an impressive run from Warner Brothers, and all those hits, this being a flop, like that's sort of the benefit of having a good run. If you take those chances, if you responsibly budget movies and you approve them, when they connect, they'll really connect, and when they don't, well, it's okay
Yeah.
because you had all these other ones that really connected, right? So that's
And
sort
again,
of
this
the
isn't
idea.
like an offensive flop either. It's not like there was nothing to like here.
Yeah.
It's a flop in the sense where no one's seeing it. Those who are seeing it are finding the things we're appreciating and very vocal about it. But I think, yeah, for at least again the not for me aspect, just the story didn't land for me, didn't land for you, and it sounds like it doesn't land for a lot of people. Again, maybe the subtlety of the message is really hard to diagnose because I was trying to get on board because I was seeing the creativity there.
Mm.
After seeing movies like Psycho Killer, the 0% Rotten Tomatoes movie, it's now at 11%, which I think I even had in my initial takes. I was like, oh, it's more like a 12 or 15%. And then I checked, I'm like, oh, it's 11%. That's actually
It's
hilarious.
gone up.
It's gone up because yeah, like there are moments in that to appreciate, but there's so much fundamental bad stuff in there. This is not the same. It's not fundamentally like rotten and devoid of interest.
Mhm.
It's just yeah, they're telling a story that was like passionately and creatively, but it just happened to be a story that I didn't like. And again, maybe it's the framework, and maybe it's the Mary Shelley. Um, Maybe it was
Knock,
the
knock,
cops.
Brandon. It's me, Mary Shelley.
Mary Shelley. But yeah, so yeah, ultimately, yeah, like I think I would rise and put it at like a 3 on Letterbox as opposed to a 2.5. I don't think it's so mid. I just think it's the highs are high, but the lows are really low.
Yeah.
So it balances out. I would recommend this over a lot of other things. But yeah, just not something that I would revisit excitedly or recommend excitedly. I wish I saw this with my girlfriend just so I could have had the female's perspective on this. But instead we
I
saw a
felt
different
incredibly
movie.
validated by Adriana and Abby's takes on this movie because I think they were more upset about the feminist messaging than I was. So I'm like,
Oh,
well, that's
good.
good.
Okay. Women can confirm this feminist
Yeah,
message was still a little too much.
as the white guy here, I will happily put words in my friends' mouths and tell you that they too also didn't like the feminist messaging in it. No, like again, I think their gripes. Like we were all on the same page. I feel like we all, the four of us, had a really sort of shared experience with that. I do think like this is to me an example. If you're listening to this and you've heard this and you haven't seen the movie, take a chance. Like these are the kinds of
Yeah.
things, like any movie that I've seen like this, like honestly I liken Pain and Gain to this. Like that was such a weird movie for me when I watched
Oh, I
it.
loved Pain
I'm
and
like,
Gain.
I don't know if this is any good, but I'm having a fun as hell time watching it. Like this to me falls into that camp, and I really enjoyed the experience of watching this movie, even if I thought there was a lot of problems with it. So yeah, my recommendation, get somebody that you can go with and go see this, because this to me is like one of those ones, like you'll remember this movie. And like to its credit, I said this as soon as it was done, I was like, I will remember more about this movie than I will Frankenstein. Is
Yeah.
that better? Is that good?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I will remember. It has imprinted on me more, and so for that reason alone, yeah, I think I'm sticking to my 2.5, but that's more just like I said, not a result that this is mid, because it's not. It's just a equalization of all the good bits and the bad bits, kind of balancing the
Big
scales a little
swing,
bit.
big miss. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I would
respect the
also
hustle.
say, because this is becoming an ongoing joke for me at least, is trying to sequelize stuff. They imply that they live, and there could be more to this sequel for this movie. Because they established Frankenstein doesn't really heal too good because he's a corpse. He's not the Jacob Elordi Frankenstein that like we were trying to figure out how do you kill him. We're like, does syphilis kill that Frankenstein? I don't know. Is he getting laid? I don't know. But we know this Frankenstein got shot in the head gruesomely. If they came back to life, is he just like eyeball blown out or something? Is he walking around being like even more disfigured?
His one eye
These
is
are
like
the
super bulged.
Yeah, exactly. The bullet's still in there. Even her, like, I mean, they never gave her a headshot. They do the Bonnie and Clyde thing where she's getting riddled,
Yeah.
but no one's getting any ugly wounds. They're all just body shots. So
Center mass, baby. Center mass.
mass. Yeah, those cops had stormtrooper aim until that last scene. There,
Yeah.
like, it was kind of funny. But again, yeah, even seeing this with two other straight guys, I like that my friend, straight white guys. No, Bourne was Asian. So, anyways, straight dudes, so just absolute bros. They were able to say kind of similarly, like, I liked so many of the creative swings, but I really was not vibing with it. And at least my friend Jack, who has an appreciation for like the lore and history and Frankenstein properties, like the worst properties in this, like the B movie quality ones, even the I just cut this
Boris
part.
Karloff.
Boris Karloff. Yeah, even that, he was comparing and saying like, there's that dance number in the Jake Gyllenhaal scene at that place, and that was apparently pulled from Young Frankenstein. He's like, we're doing the Charleston or whatever. Like, so like there's love for the IP that if you like, again, for the Frankenheads out there, like it might land even more for you.
The
But even my friend Jack,
Frankensteiners. I don't know.
yeah, from all the Steiners out there, from all the Mary Shelleyettes, yeah, they my buddy could appreciate, but also it didn't quite land for him. So it's not like it was just me seeing it with dudes who see like 2 movies a year, and we're like, what the hell was this? This wasn't F1, you know. I saw it with fellow cinephiles, fellow guys that appreciate movies, and much like you seeing it with 2 real women, who also found the feminist stuff to be a little bit much. I think from the gambit of these 7 to 8 people across the board we know in real life, not just our own internet echo chamber of bandwagoning and a disliked opinion, it didn't quite land. So, because I was trying to be like, well, maybe I'll be the positive one, but it's like I was having a hard time finding the ability to kind of say that, and I didn't want to be one of those people where it's like, yeah, it feels like all the reviews are, this is a breathtaking masterpiece, or it's what a dog shit film. So it was like I was trying to find the middle ground, but to be 7 out of 7 people that we personally know saying not impressing them, even if it was big creative swings that we liked, like we could highlight several beats we really liked, but then we could nag several beats that were just like
Yeah, for
absolute drags.
every good thing, there was 1 to 2 things that were like, "What
Yeah,
are we doing?" And
equal and opposite reactions.
same spirit. Like when people start clowning on a movie, I get more excited to be like,
Yeah.
"Yes, yes,
That was my
this
Psycho
is."
Killer. I was like, I got to see this
Yeah,
and talk about it. And then I was like, no, actually, the hate was justified. There is 15% phenomenal time in there, but then there is just
yeah.
so much
I follow a
like
guy on
bad.
Twitter and Letterboxd, Jeff Zhang, and he gave it 1.5 stars and said, "Would have loved to add this into my 'you're all wrong about this one' canon, but you're all right about this one." So it's like, yeah, I'm kind of there with you, King. And I guess to close out this week, I don't have a theater etiquette bit, so because no one saw The Bride with us. So the PSA this week, please go to the theaters, guys. We're kicking off, I will say, box office doing better this year, 2 months into the year than we were last year. That's a great sign, but please, guys, go to the movies. Take a chance on this movie. I really think you will have fun watching this, if anything else. And what else do you want to do for 2 hours? Go have fun with it.